guests here with me. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Greg Dowell, and I'm one of the ministers here on staff.
And I'm Jennifer Dowell. I also go by Mean Jean, which many of you know. So I can answer to either one of those.
And we are married
Yes.
for almost 35 years in August.
Coming up.
Happy almost anniversary.
Yes.
I love that. I'm glad y'all are here today. I'm super excited about this conversation. We'll get into that a little more here in a second. But before we do that, our 806 topic for today, what is on your bucket list or your bingo card, whichever one you like to do, for something that you haven't yet experienced here in 806?
Okay. Well, we both love outdoors. We love trails and hiking, and I have yet to go to Caprock Canyon State Park, so that is still on my list to do.
And I would say for me, I had to think about it a little bit, but I think I want to drive out to that piece of land where they're going to build the AI data center that I'm hearing about. I think it's out by Pantex. They say it's massive, and I'm just curious. I'm curious what that looks like.
Yeah. Are they doing more than one here, or is it?
To be honest with you,
different things?
well, and I hear different things also, so I don't know if the project is fully on or if somebody has said they've started the dirt work, but I've also heard some funding hasn't come through. I don't know, but my understanding is it is big. And our kids live in Abilene, and they're in the middle of building a data center in Abilene, and it has really impacted that economy, that culture. So I'm curious to know how that might result, what that might result in here in Amarillo.
Fascinating. So my answer, well, number one, there are a lot of things in the summer that I want to participate in, and then I never do.
Yeah.
So there's like June Jazz. That's like in the fall.
Yes.
There's a lot of live music things that I would love to participate in, but I never seem to get there.
Right.
But the Voodoo Mural Festival
Yes.
is on my list. Also, there's a new thing out on I-40 in Helium Road. Have y'all heard of this? Helium Heights?
No.
They took the old, it looks like factories there on
Yeah.
the north side.
Oh,
The
okay. Oh, yeah, yeah.
helium plant.
Okay,
Yeah,
yes.
they've taken it and kind of made it into a location where there's vendors and there's live music. And
Really?
Okay.
Do they sell
So-
helium? I mean, are people putting it,
well, you know,
talking in real funny voice? Yeah.
It is pretty fun. We were talking before we got on here that 806 is such a big area. There's so much
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
There's
It's extensive.
to do here, but there's a lot.
For sure. Yes.
Okay, so let's hop into our topic for today. So the reason we have Greg and Mean Jean here, sorry, I know her as Mean Jean. So, the reason we have you here is that the two of you took a trip of a lifetime back in May.
Yes.
And let's just start by talking about where you went and
You want to
Yeah.
start us off?
Sure. We went to northern Spain and did a portion of the Camino route. So it's the Camino de Santiago, which is an old pilgrimage route that leads to the city of Santiago de Compostela. It's an extensive route. It can start in France. That's the route we did, a part of it. But the whole route is like 800 kilometers from France, and we did a portion of it. We did about 100 miles of it.
so this is a Christian pilgrimage, right?
Yeah, the Camino de Santiago, it stands for the Way of St. James. And so think of St. James, the brother of John, so the apostles. And I won't get into all of the legend, but the idea is his body was buried in the Spain area, and then years later, like hundreds of years later, they believe they discovered the grave, and then they built a church over that area where his body was supposedly. Again, this is a lot of legend and lore, and you can research it for yourself. There's varying different versions of this, but people started making pilgrimages to that area. So they made pilgrimages to Rome, to Jerusalem, and then Spain was the third most popular pilgrimage, and they would do that as a way to visit the remains of St. James. And so it was called the Camino de Santiago, the Way of St. James. Here's the deal, though. It's been going on since the 8th, 9th century. So over 1,000 years, people have been doing this pilgrimage, just walking. There's different paths to take. The one we took is probably the most popular one. It's the French way. And they end up in this Santiago de Compostela, and you go to the cathedral, which sits over the grave of St. James. So people made these pilgrimages for years and continue to do so. They said they would have over 500,000 pilgrims this year alone. It's become very popular. But I would say a lot of people aren't necessarily doing it for religious reasons. Would you say that's right?
Yes. Historically, from the Middle Ages, people did it for a variety of religious reasons, like penance or healing or devotion. And now I think a lot of people on the path are more, they might be seekers in a way, but they're really there for the adventure of it or the experience of just walking and seeing. But I did find it interesting. Most everyone on the path did want to go into the cathedral at the end and celebrate Mass.
Yeah, they did.
Whether they were religious or not. That was really interesting.
I would say the Camino, for a lot of the people we ran into, so this is anecdotal, it's just our experience, it was more spiritual than religious. And what I mean by that is they were on the trail for maybe more deeper spiritual meaning. A lot of people maybe experienced a transition in their life. Maybe they went through a divorce, or they're in between jobs, or maybe they've experienced a loss, or they've had a diagnosis, which is similar to what, part of the reason we were on the trail, or something like that has happened, and they're seeking an opportunity to kind of walk with that, if you will, kind of deal with that. And so they would come to the Camino. But we met a variety of people that were there for a variety of reasons, but most of them had a story of some kind.
Yes.
So that story serves as a catalyst to kind of
Sure.
get into that experience.
Sure. And I think for us, part of that catalyst, some of it was my diagnosis of stage 4 colon cancer in December of 2022. And while we're healthy and we can walk, we wanted to do something like this. And then you had other reasons that you wanted to participate in the Camino.
Yeah. Back in 2014, after my mom passed, my dad and sister and I had the opportunity to take a trip to France. And I remember at Chartres Cathedral, there was a marker there for the Camino. There's a route marker there. And I remember just being a little bit compelled by that. I thought, that's interesting. And, as we were there visiting the Cathedral of Chartres, they talked a little bit about pilgrimages and things like that. And I thought, okay, that's really interesting. But I didn't dig into it too much, but it did stay in the back of my mind. And then over time, over the years, the Camino would surface in different things I read or different things I heard about. There's the movie that we saw, The Way, and it just kind of grew in my mind. So I don't know. In recent years, I think we talked about it here and there. Maybe it came up a time or two. And then in the past year, we got to really thinking about maybe we should just go ahead and do this.
And I think something that was kind of compelling to us was that for over 1,000 years, people have traveled that path. And you're wondering, why would they do that? What is that about? And there is something mystical, in my opinion, when you set out on that trail and you realize how many people have gone before you, how many people are doing this with you, and how many people will do it in the future. I would say there was always a sense that you're never alone.
Yes. And there was something to it for me also about just the walking town to town. And even though Jesus didn't walk in northern Spain, but that was how he did his ministry, was just walking town to town. And there was something about, in our day and age, where we're just in the cars, on the go, moving fast, about doing that experience, just where you're walking. Every day is just walking. And then that drew me.
I love that. Yeah, there are a lot of places in Scripture that it's a journey, it's a going, it's a walking, and it usually is on foot. So that is interesting to make that connection. So that leads into the next question. What was a typical day like?
Yes.
So what was the actual experience day to day?
Right, yeah. Well, we would start. Usually we like to be on the trail, out the door and kind of on the trail with our packs on around 7 a.m. so we could start early and get that cool morning air.
But before we did that, we would have a quick little,
Yes.
not really a full breakfast, but kind of a cup of coffee.
It was first breakfast.
Yeah, it was first breakfast. So you'd have a cup of coffee and maybe a little roll or a little Danish or something.
You'd have a cafe con leche and your croissant, and then you would head out the door and start walking the path for several kilometers. And all along the path, you're just seeing the markers that tell you which way to go. The yellow arrows is what you're following. And usually along the way, not too far down the path, you would run into somebody and start a conversation.
And we had a lot of conversations. And it only takes one question, and next thing you know, you're walking with somebody for 2 hours.
Yeah. Which was, that was a beautiful part of it. We love that. And then, mid-morning, you're stopping for second breakfast.
That's around 9 o'clock.
And more cafe con leche and maybe a Spanish tortilla, which is like an egg and potato.
Think like a quiche
Quiche,
almost.
yes, yeah. And or fresh squeezed orange juice. And when you're stopping, they call them bars.
Yeah.
But they're what we would call little cafes. But they're usually just run by a mom and pop.
Yeah.
And you sit outside and enjoy you sit with others, whoever you've been walking with, or maybe you sit down on your own, but then soon you're in a conversation with someone else that's stopped there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these are not commercial coffee outlets. These little bars are all, like she said, mom and pop. There's not a McDonald's on the road. There's not a Starbucks. But it's communal. I mean, I would say the entire day is pretty much communal.
Yes.
So then after you've had your second breakfast, you hit the trail again.
So you're walking along, is it through the countryside? Like, what is it looking like?
Yes. It was stunningly beautiful. So lush green fields, lots of walks through trees. A lot of it was a forest path.
Yeah.
A dirt trail or a forest path. Some of it a little bit graveled. You're crossing bridges. You're crossing streams. You're going through little hamlets where the houses are stone and they're so old. And you're seeing people with small farms and places where their animals still live, and the cattle or whatever come into the barn, but your house is built on top of that. And we would see them taking their cows out to the fields. And
yeah, when we say they're cows, they might have 6 or 7. We didn't see any big farm operations. It was more kind of these smaller little family farms, green hillsides, rolling hills, just beautiful. So you're walking through that and just enjoying the beauty of it as well as conversations. And then it's lunchtime. And so you're going to stop at a bar. Again, that's just another term for a little restaurant or cafe. And then this is the big meal. This is what they call that, the pilgrim.
It's the pilgrim's menu. So most every place had the pilgrim's menu, and it was set up the same. You'd have first course, and you could pick, 5 or 6 different dishes on the first course. Second course, same, a different 5 or 6 dishes to choose from. It came with a dessert, came with usually bread, and then wine or water.
Yeah. It was wine or water. You couldn't get both.
But whether you chose wine or water, it was the same cost. So,
and they considered that the big meal. I mean, that's when you really want to eat quite a bit of food. And then you do that, and then you hit the road again. Now you're in the afternoons, and there were a couple afternoons that got pretty hot.
Yeah.
1 or 2 days.
1 or 2 days. Most of our weather was just...
It was perfect.
Perfect. We got a little warm a few times.
And then you would end up in your next spot. Maybe you'd get to your hotel or your albergue, which is a hostel. Maybe you'd get there around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Sometimes we would do a load of laundry. When I say a load of laundry, it is a few things in your sink or in the shower. You're carrying it. We are. Not everybody does that, but we carried it all with us. So you don't want to carry a lot. Right. And you do your little laundry because you have to be able to, there's no dryer. And so you've got to set it out. I mean, there's clothes everywhere. You'll go into some of these little hotels, and everybody's got their clothes strung out because they've just done a load, so to speak, of laundry. And you might rest a little bit and maybe make some notes. And then you would do another little meal at 5 o'clock. You want to explain that one?
Yeah. was going to say, yeah, the afternoons were pretty much airing out everything you had, showering, taking care of your blisters, and then resting a little bit before you went out. And yeah, usually in the evenings, we were ready to explore our location a little bit and see what there was in the little area. They're small villages, so you can look around and see a lot quickly, and then find a place to eat.
And so you might eat tapas, which are just a little small plate of food at 5 o'clock or so. You might get a drink as well while you're doing that. And they're not done eating, by the way. We would probably, a lot of times we did those dinners with other people.
Yeah. The fun thing is, as time goes on, you're meeting people the first few days, and then you're seeing those same people on the path here and there the rest of the time. So, yeah, it was often in the evenings we would see somebody we had hiked with the day before or 2 days ago, and we'd be able to grab a meal with them.
And then they would have dinner at 9 o'clock at night. Well, by that point, we're in bed.
Yeah.
But the Spanish people are eating late in the evening. So there was one time we went to a restaurant. What time did we show up at that restaurant? 7:30?
This was in Madrid, but we were sitting down at the restaurant at about 7:45 at night, which is late for us. And they said, "Are you here for dinner?"
Yeah, like nobody's there. And they're and so we sit down, we're like the only people in the restaurant. And then by 9 o'clock when we get ready to leave, it's packed.
Yeah, then it was filling up.
Yeah. So we seldom did we do a late meal like that, but then we would hit the sack pretty early and try to get some sleep, because the next morning you're back at it.
So how many total miles or kilometers did you walk?
Yeah.
128 miles on the trail.
Oh,
So we were on the
yeah.
trail 9 days. We were on the Camino for 10 days, but the first day we just arrived to Osabrero, which is where we started, and spent the night. We didn't actually hike that day. The 9 days that we hiked 128 miles.
Yeah. The one of the interesting and I think kind of fun things about the Camino is you get what's called your Camino passport, and each place along the way, maybe where you stay or where you eat, you get a stamp, like an ink stamp. Like there's an ink pad there, and each little place of business has their own design, but you stamp your passport along the way. And then when you get to Santiago, you can get your certificate of completion, your Compostela. And so, but you have to have at least 2 stamps for every day, and you have to have at least walked 100 kilometers, the last 100 kilometers of the route. So that's kind of a marker. That's really fun. That was something we did along the way. So that kind of helped us plan what route we wanted to do. We knew we wanted to do at least the last 100 kilometers. We did more than that, but and got our little stamps along the way so that we could get our Compostela.
And you may think of that Compostela as almost, well, that's weird. It's just a certificate. It seems like a participation trophy that you might get in youth sports or something. But people are serious about it.
Yeah.
They want that. And it's, at the end of it, when you enter into that area and you get that certificate, it's meaningful.
Yes.
I'm going to frame mine
Yes.
eventually.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Although I misspelled my name. But other than that, well, they asked my
Oreo.
name, and so I put it in, and then later on the certificates or on the computer they asked my last name, and so it says Greg Dowell. A little double Dowell there. Double Dowell. Mean Jean did it correctly. Hers looks a lot nicer. That's part of the. That's all part of the experience.
It's all part of it.
I
Oh.
love it. So, talking about the physicality of this trip, was there something in that physical action of the experience that connected to your spirituality or to your experience with God?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say the Camino is a full body experience. I mean, your whole body is involved in it. You're walking, you're smelling, you're seeing, you're listening, not just
Your
to.
body is smelling or your toes?
Both. Both. We're late in the day. The conversations there's a little more distance between people late in the day, but so you're absorbing all of that, and of course I'm one of those people that believes that you get a sense of God's presence through nature, but also through one another and through people. And then there's just kind of this eerie sense, again, mystical sense, that it's a well-traveled trail that's happened for so long that this presence of others, of God, that is part of the walking, and that is part of just traveling. And then there are times, sometimes we even split up, maybe to just have time alone, a little bit of solo time while we're walking and writing some notes or offering a prayer. I think you had some scriptures that you had memorized. So I think there's different ways that you get a sense that God is near and he is on this journey with you.
Yeah. And there was something about carrying your belongings with you that I felt like connected to that full body experience too, that you need to pack light because you're taking it all with you. And there was something about just traveling with those burdens and thinking about what am I picking up and carrying? Is there something there I could let go of? Or, what do I really need? There was a lot to think about along those lines.
One of the things that some of the seasoned pilgrims would talk about is just this backpack. We did the backpack. Not everybody did it. But when you do the backpack, you realize the weight that you're carrying. I would say my pack was probably 30 pounds. Yours
Mine wasn't as heavy as yours, but
yeah, hers was 20. What I would do, though, one of the things I would do when she would go to the restroom, I'd take stuff out of my pack and put it in hers. So by the end of the day, I'm carrying like a 10-pound pack, and Mean Jeans, she's hauling 50 pounds. Yeah, she didn't realize it. I never told her while we were over there. But people would ask, well, what are you carrying in your pack? Well, you're carrying what you bring with you, and a lot of times you're carrying too much because you bring too much. And some of that is physical, just the supplies that you bring. We don't need near as much as we think we need.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a simplicity about the Camino that you realize we're loaded with material stuff, but we're also loaded with life and just burdens, if you will. Some people grief. Some people it's just things that they're dealing with or they're going through, and you're carrying it with you. And you can feel the weight of it. So we liked having those packs. I think you would say would add to just the spirituality of the experience.
Well, to me, yeah, there was some meaning there. There was a lot of meaning in carrying the pack. I had a friend I met, Christine. She's from Germany, and she had been on the route for she was doing the full 800 kilometers. So she started in France and came through. So by the time I met her, she'd already been hiking for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But she talked in terms of just laying down burdens along the way. And she talked a lot about just walking it off and walking and laying down just the heaviness of life, I think, along the way. And I think that was
metaphors of what you're carrying.
Yes.
And letting go of things, laying things down. I love how even our senses, you talked about smelling and seeing along the way, all of that is connected and all of that
Yes.
teaches us.
Yes.
I love that was part of your experience. Was there something about this trip that surprised you?
Well, the nature was far more beautiful than I expected. I had seen some pictures, of the Camino, but you never know. It's a long route. I didn't know what pictures I was looking at, what it would be like on our section. It was stunningly beautiful. Lots of wildflowers, of course, the streams, the lush meadows, the trees. That part was, a great surprise, how beautiful it was. And then I would say the people, just who we met along the way.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that surprised me is the number of younger people. I mean, you had a lot of people under the age of 30. Yeah. And then I would say a lot of people kind of our age and above. But the number of younger people surprised me. I was not prepared for how communal the experience would be. I mean, we continue to be in contact with some of the people we met on the Camino. Matter of fact, one of our good friends, Rob, who we met, who is from Atlanta, from the Georgia area, he was driving through town a couple of days ago, and he and I went to lunch and just spent lunch together. And so we're texting these folks, we're in communication with some of these people, and I didn't realize it was going to be that relational. Did you?
No, I didn't. And I didn't know, the younger people on the route. We met a lot of people in their upper 20s, lower, early 30s. They were really open to conversation.
Oh,
We
yeah.
had lots of good conversations with many people in that age group, which I appreciated that they would, visit with us old timers.
And I think I was surprised how quickly people wanted to talk about their story,
Yeah.
what had happened in their life. There's a lot of grief on the Camino. There's just a lot of transition on the Camino.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the woman that you met. She's sharing about her job transitions, what's going on in her life. I mean, they are open, and it's fast.
Mm-hmm.
You just ask somebody, where are you from, or you introduce yourself, and they're pretty quickly, they're going to get into their story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And the diversity of people, let me say that too.
Yeah.
We met people from all over the world.
All over. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Korea, China, Scotland, France, Ireland,
Australia.
Central America, Canada, South America.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all New Zealand, all over the
All
place.
over. Yeah. Yeah. It was.
Thinking about something that would draw that many people, that many different people from different contexts, different experiences. Like you said, there's something there that's kind of mystical. There's a mystery
Yes.
to it. There's a book by Mike Cosper, and he's talking about how, especially in the West, we can describe experiences, right? We can say, to see a rainbow, we can say all the specifics about how it works, the science of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't give you the feeling of it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
trying to understand the mystery and the feeling of those things that can't be defined until you experience them, there's something just so valuable about that. And I
I
think I
think
hear
so.
a lot of that in your experience on this trip.
Yeah.
And I think, is that something that we could capture more of? Is trying to tap
Right.
into that mysterious side of things with that we do it.
Yes.
Well, and I think with the younger people, I think there was a desire to experience something. I don't think they want to read a book about the Camino.
Right.
I don't think they necessarily want to hear stories about the Camino or even watch a movie about the Camino, although there are all those things. I think they want to experience it.
Yeah.
I think they want to engage it firsthand. And there is something about the enchanting nature of that kind of experience. And I would say some of that is because it's so rooted in the lore and the legend
Yes. Yeah.
and kind of medieval times and things like that. Would you say that's accurate?
Oh yeah, I think so too. I think that there's a real sense of that on the route.
I mean, even one time, I mean, there's just kind of things you'll see along the route that take you back in time. You know, different characters. We saw this one woman that was kind of dressed in a creative outfit that kind of looked a little like magical, if you will.
Yeah.
Like she was a witch or something, and it was like, what are we doing here?
Interesting. I love that. So was there something from the trip that you, either a way you experienced it or something you learned about God that you would like to incorporate in your life here at home?
Yeah, a lot of things come to mind. One was the simplicity of every day. I really liked that I didn't have decision fatigue because I was just going to wear what I hadn't worn the day before. And then, I had one outfit to put on in the evening. And so you just got up and it was simple, and then you headed out the door. And then along the route, you're just following the yellow arrows. And so you're just walking and following that, and then you're just open to who you may encounter that day. And I like a lot of that. There's some of that I do want to bring back. I know, I think of the verse in Isaiah that talks about a path and in the way, and it talks about the voice that you hear in your ear. This is the way, walk in it. And I think of that tied to those yellow arrows I saw on the route. But I think about if you are practicing the way with Jesus, that the Spirit will prompt you in your daily life. This is the way, walk in it. Maybe when you do have decisions to make, or where you are, having a conversation with someone and you want to speak, speak to them, listen to them, and bless them with your presence. I think there's prompts by the Holy Spirit that help with that.
I would follow that as well by saying that there was something about the direction. It was primarily yellow arrows, but there were other ways that you'd kind of look. Is this the right path? And sometimes there would be two paths, and one would look like the better road. It might be paved. Mm-hmm. It might look clear, and you would think to yourself, "Oh, that's probably it." And then you'd have to look around. You had to be intentional sometimes. Which way am I supposed to go? And then you'd find it. Mm-hmm. You'd find that little arrow or that little something that would say, actually, it's not the paved route. It's this dirt route that goes into the woods. That's the way. And so all these people for thousands of years have painted, or they've put things in the path, or they've shared things to help you realize this is the way. Mm-hmm. This is the way to go to your destination. And we were following those prompts, those clues the whole way. And the one time it got difficult is when we were within a mile.
Yeah.
A mile of our destination, of the cathedral in Santiago de Compostela. We can see parts of the cathedral about a mile away, and we can't find the markers. And we're not sure, are we supposed to go down this street or this street? How do we get there? And there's a lot of distractions, and there's a ton of people that aren't on the trail with you, and there's a lot of activity, and you're literally, at one point, I'm having to get on my device. I'm never on the device on the trail to figure out the way to go, but I'm having to get on my device to figure out, how do I get to our destination? Because the city, it became very confusing.
We were so close, but it was the hardest part of the route to follow.
Yeah, you just couldn't find. And so there is this sense of this is the way. And I will say this, we got to almost the very end, and we took a wrong turn because we didn't know, and we took a wrong turn, and somebody spotted us. And this woman came, and she saw us with the backpacks going the wrong direction, and she said, "Hey, I was on this trail yesterday. You guys are going the wrong way. You need to go this way." Yeah. And sure enough, we were just
a little while
50 feet from the end, and we were struggling. We were disoriented, and she helped us kind of recapture the trail, and then we walked through that tunnel, and there we are at the cathedral. Yeah. So that to me was very meaningful. Just the constant reminders of this is the way. This is the way. Right. The other thing that I would say is this idea of when you're on life's journey, whether you're walking or whatever you're doing, being available and open to interact with people, to have conversations. So one of the things we're doing every morning typically is we're walking. And I mean, the first morning we're back in Amarillo, we go for a walk in the neighborhood to remind us of the Camino. We don't start with a cafe con leche and a pastry, but we started and we run into a neighbor. Yeah. And he shares with us pretty quickly some health concerns that he and his wife have been dealing with, and we just stop in the trail in the street in Amarillo, and we just have a conversation. And because of what they're going through, we said, "Hey, why don't you come to dinner at our house, a couple nights later in the week?" And we had them over, and we spent over a couple hours just in conversation. So I think this idea of a more casual, relational, communal, we're kind of wired that way anyways, but I want to be even more intentional with it.
Yeah, I just want to think in terms of availability, and it might be a 5-minute conversation with someone, or it may be I need to set aside some real time here and make space for that person.
I love that. That you mentioned before, Jesus did so much of his ministry walking, number one, and it was just noticing people along the way.
Yes.
So maybe that is a good way for us to wrap up today, and considering the ways that we can look for the arrows where God is directing us, and notice the people along the way as we're journeying and as we're walking together and walking like Christ. So thank you all so much for joining us today. We love getting a view into your experience. And for our listeners, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Buen Camino.
Buen Camino.